Alex, thank you all for being here with us. It's a pleasure. Thank you. And I think you said it, one of the big frustration we had is that the purpose of the TV show was that we think that the only person that can understand the issues that we face as entrepreneurs are fellow entrepreneurs. And so we wanted to get this discussion going, but TV comes with a lot of constraints. And we were very frustrated that we couldn't have more time. And especially with Patrick, because you couldn't come for the premiere, but when we showed your quotes, these were the moment people were laughing the most. And yes,
that's good.
And because you will discover Patrick, for those who don't know him, but you're extremely matter-of-factual. Not only because you're an engineer, there are other reasons for that. And your vision is extremely interesting. So it's a pleasure to spend a bit more time with you. And so today, I would like to very quickly go into an exchange with the audience because there are a lot of topics that are of interest to the people who are here. Entrepreneurship, but also blockchain, also the future of technology in general. Patrick, to start, can you tell us how you started your career? Because you were not an entrepreneur at the very beginning.
No, I was not. And basically, it's pretty simple. I was never happy with my bosses. And
where did you start?
Well, I started at Blue Window. It was the starting time of internet and
so large companies, but still in a cool new field at the time.
Yes, it was still very small, and it was a team of a couple of dozens people, and we didn't know where this internet thing would go.
And your role was?
I was a project manager at that time. I had no exposure and no idea about project management whatsoever.
So that makes sense that you became a project manager. And so you didn't think that you had what we call a hierarchy of competence?
No, but the thing is, in an ISP in the early days, nobody had. So it didn't really matter. People didn't really know that everybody was trying and winging it. And one of my bosses there said, no, it was a boss who said it later. He said, look, it's pretty easy. In a hurricane, even turkeys can fly. And I guess that that's about it. So I flew.
So you flew, and then that was the first company, and then you thought you didn't have enough rigidity and structure, and then you moved on to...
Right. So the first company grew extremely fast, .com style, from one person, myself, to 26 employees.
No, but that's before you started your own business. You went to work for a bigger company.
I worked for Credit Suisse as well, yes.
You don't have to say the name. You can say a large Swiss bank. So that's where I was going. So you went from this like relatively dynamic startup inside a large corporation where you were frustrated with your boss and you had this amazing idea to be less frustrated with your boss. You went to an even bigger company working in the financial industry.
Exactly, and I have to be very careful because one of my bosses sits here.
He still came tonight, so probably maybe to check on you. But that's wearing his other hat because he works for KGB. But that's another story.
But that's the thing, right? I mean, if you're an employee, it's so easy to find things that you don't agree with and you could do better and everything. Yeah, I mean, especially I was a real smart ass, so I knew everything that was wrong. But as soon as you leave this safe haven and you're in the wind, and you see that sometimes there is no right or wrong as you saw it as an employee. Well, that's when things become tricky, and not just tricky to take the proper way, but also tricky for yourself, because it's not black and white anymore.
What you're saying is that things were very simple as long as you were an employee.
Yes.
And then it became more complicated when you became an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Why was that?
I think it's similar as if you are a teenager and then suddenly you grow up and you have teenagers of your own. Things look very clear as long as you are the teenager, because it's a thing of the perspective. But as soon as other elements come in, things become more complicated and not as clear as they were before.
So what did you gain by becoming an entrepreneur, and what did you lose?
Well, I think that what I gained was I got stronger from my point of view. I saw, look, employees will join and leave. There will be a life cycle, so you cannot just pin everything to one single employee or even a consensus between the employees, because when they're gone, when it's evening and they are all went home, you as an entrepreneur, you will still be there and you will take the responsibility that the shop opens the next day. So that helped me a lot, especially because I was very insecure about my ways and where to go. So that I have gained. What I've lost is perhaps a certain sense of innocence. You know, you suddenly have to stand behind your own decisions, and you start to doubt yourself before you take a decision. So it was so easy to just follow. Because when you follow the herd, you can't do anything wrong. You know, it's just, yeah, well, it's best practice. It's like a little bit, you know, that thing that nobody has ever been fired for choosing IBM or stuff like that. That's true, but it's not just true for a software provider. It's true for everything. As long as you follow the herd and you don't go astray, nobody will pin it down on you and say, yeah, you did the same thing I did. So I mean, that's a problem. So.
But that's the corporate world. You follow the herd, you do the best practice, or you do what McKinsey says, and then nobody can bother you.
Exactly.
That's kind of the safe way. And so when you became an entrepreneur, you couldn't do that anymore.
No, because again, I was a smart ass. I thought I knew better. I was proven wrong. I had multiple companies, and not all the companies went well. And I had to talk to myself in the evening and explain to myself why things went wrong. And even then, I had to go to my parents and explain them why, you know, I need more money or things.
Why you move back in with them?
No, I didn't. I never failed that hard. So luckily.
Yeah, it's. I think you said on the TV show, you said one of the hardest things for me was that when I became an entrepreneur, there was nobody else I could blame anymore.
Yeah.
I thought that was a very good summary. Something else happened around that time is that you found out that around the age of 30, that socializing and identifying emotions of others was difficult for you.
Yeah, well, I noticed that way before, so it was already when...
So I think you told me other people noticed it before you, and then you noticed it?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about that?
So my girlfriend at the time noticed that something was off with me, and I was diagnosed as an Asperger. So if you don't know, Aspergers is a high-functioning autism. It's on the spectrum of autism, and it makes it for me impossible to experience emotions the same way the neurotypical people do. So suddenly, a lot of things made a lot of sense for me, because I thought, yeah, okay, you're strange. I knew that before, but it's not something what I could learn. You know, it's not something.
It's not something you were doing wrong. Like retrospectively, it explained a lot of situations.
Exactly. I failed because I didn't have access to the same information or the same level, and that changed.
So that was before you became an entrepreneur.
I was already entrepreneur for 4 years when I.
And so so if I understand you well, is that for you it's particularly, let's say it's not intuitive. You were not born with the capacity to recognize the emotions of the person you're interacting with.
Exactly.
So how did you work around that?
Well, I didn't even think I had a workaround. I thought everybody was doing that the same way I did. So I was trying to ask, to talk back, to see micro movements in the eyes or in the face, because I couldn't tell if a person was interested or bored beyond belief. So I had to find ways to check that, and that helped. But it's just a strategy to work around the problem. Sometimes I wished that it would come easier and more intuitive to me.
And so, did you have situation, I don't know, where like somebody was like destroying their computer and shouting, and like, what do you mean? You know, you were lost as to what emotion they were displaying?
Absolutely, but more. I usually when people start smashing keyboards, I take the hint. So that's okay. But sometimes I remember that I let situation escalate to a point where it was hard to bring them back. And when people got angry or very upset, I didn't understand why they were so upset, because everything was going so well.
So you didn't see that they were angry, and you're like, so why are you angry? And you didn't see the signals leading to that point. And so I guess there was some kind of rupture, and like, well, what happened? I didn't see it coming, for example.
That's one of the things. I'm very direct. So I have no problem saying, oh yeah, that idea you pitched, I don't know. I'm not very diplomatic, because when I'm invited to give my opinion, I think, or I thought, that it didn't have to be gift wrapped and be diplomatically conveyed, but I was there to give my opinion, and if my opinion was
how
harsh.
crazy are you to think that when people ask your opinion, you actually ask your opinion? Right?
Yeah.
Who does that? I mean,
no Swiss guy at least.
Sometimes I wonder if like the way that way is not actually normal, and all of us are not normal. There is a real question. Like in the corporate world, sometimes you wonder who's crazy. If it's the people saying the truth, or the people like controlling themselves.
That's the thing, right? You have this expression, did I hurt your feeling? What do you do if somebody does not have any emotion or very little emotion? So how do you expect from that person not to hurt your feeling? So that was hard.
So you kind of noticed that in the middle of your manager's career.
Yes.
So you already had employees before.
Yes.
And so what changed after you recognized that issue? Like, so I understand that you mentally had some processes about like the immediate body language of the person and trying to categorize what's happening, but in the bigger picture, did you change the way you would do annual reviews, or did you, I know new recruits is one of the things you would say. Did you set up a code for people to signal to you that they had special emotions? So how do I ask for a raise?
You don't, because that's why usually they get me.
People have to hold a dollar sign and come next to you.
No, but that's why it's quite important. The people I work with know that I am an Asperger, and even when I meet new people, when I know it will be a difficult topic or something where we will have some friction, I tell them. I mean, that's how we met us, right? I told you, I think, in the first 5 minutes that, I'm setting the scene. Careful, I'm an Asperger, I don't mean it. And this is important because I rely on a certain group of people that have these sensors to tell me when I go off script. And this is quite helpful for me. And I think it's also quite helpful to go ahead. So to come back to your question, it's a mix. It's a mix between experience, where I know, okay, I shouldn't perhaps say everything that pops in my mind, even if I'm right, and the feedback from the people I know, and they know me, and they would tell me, look, there, take it easy. They can read my signs.
Is there some sort of advantage you think that condition is giving you?
Well, I think all the people that are not Aspergers are plainly crazy, but that's another topic. I have a lot of advantages. I think as soon as I understood that I'm different in some way, and that I have to live with myself all my life. I know it's a bit tricky, and that I don't have to follow the herd and follow the people. A lot of things changed for me that I see as highly beneficial. So currently I have quite a good memory. I am free of these emotions that can sometimes lead you in a different direction that you would like to have. And I'm a very logical and systematic person. So I think these are skill sets that are more beneficial than blocking for.
It's true. What you describe is the perfect skill set of a trader. It's like no emotions, very rational, high memory, super fast brain. I mean, thank you for coming to entrepreneurship. You could have done so many other things that would have been slightly less productive.
But there is a flip side to that. I'm easily bored, and when I'm bored, I have to find something else. I cannot sit behind a trader's desk day after day for a couple of years. It doesn't really matter what you do.
I think all the people who are bored at work are going to get a test, like maybe they have Asperger now. So tell us about Blockfactory. So now we come to where we are today. Blockfactory, I think the name rings a bell, blockchain, obviously. Can you tell us about your current venture? Like, what does Blockfactory do? And also, there is a Proxeus billboard behind us. Can you tell us a little bit what you're working on these days?
Gladly. So basically, Blockfactory, or the whole blockchain initiative, started off as exactly what I said before. I was bored with a functioning business and I had to find something new. And blockchain at that time, when I bought my first Bitcoin at, I think, 62 Swiss francs, was quite something new and novel. So what I did is I experienced it, and I bought, for example, a miner, which is our coffee table now, and I dug my teeth into that matter. And with time, this topic became quite popular, and more people joined the party, so to say, which is where Blockfactory is today. And Blockfactory provides blockchain-based solutions that revolve around the whole ecosystem. One of these projects was Proxeus, which was is an ICO, where we make the blockchain technology accessible to people that have no idea about blockchain, because we felt that it is an incredible innovative technology, and we are passionate about it, but we feel that it is quite difficult to get in touch with blockchain and blockchain technology, because it's such a myth of distributed databases that connect with each other, and there are hacks and stuff like that. So there is such a big narrative around it that takes away the simplicity of the solution.
So what I think, to make an analogy that tech people would understand, you're trying to do the WordPress.com of the blockchain. Like I can use it without having to put my hands under the hood. There's a question I've been asking everyone about blockchain, and nobody has ever given me a satisfactory answer. Maybe with you I have a shot. Try to explain blockchain to a 6-year-old. Define it as if you were presenting it to a 6-year-old.
Okay, if I had to present it to a 6-year-old, it would be, how can you make sure that you have received your pocket money last week, or that you don't have received it? Because only two people are involved. You're receiving the pocket money and the person giving you the pocket money. So how do you make sure and prove that you got it? And then the 6-year-old would most probably come to the accounting thing. I will write a receipt or something. What is if you lose that receipt? How do you do it then? And blockchain, in a nutshell, is nothing more than that. It is a digital receipt for a transaction, which is done between two parties.
And so we've heard about the bubble around blockchain, this explosion of media hype. Now it's kind of vanished a little bit, which means that probably the productive side is coming. It's the overhype and the trope of disillusion, or something it's called by Gartner. Why should we care, like people like me and the people sitting in the audience who have businesses and who work in different large companies and in their daily lives? Why should we care about this technology, in your opinion? How is it going to change our lives and our jobs?
Okay, that's quite a difficult question, and I think the answer is exactly the opposite. Why shouldn't you care? If blockchain just achieves a very fraction of what is said that blockchain will do, any business will have to care at some point. Let's look at it like, .com and MySpace. How is your MySpace account going?
It's probably been hacked 5 times now.
But there is Facebook and there is social media that stemmed out of it. And I think blockchain has the same thing. It is not a technology that you take or you leave. It is an exposure you get to a certain technology that will evolve with time, and you will have to care and you will have to take care at that, because the alternative is just as unattractive as it gets. It is going back to your paper-based accounting system and making sure that you keep your little notes and your receipts.
But can you give us concrete examples of projects that maybe you're currently developing and that will become day-to-day products that maybe someone like me is going to use?
Okay, let's talk about tokenization, which is a big topic for us. So everything you own currently, you only own if you have physical access to it. Right? This is our definition of ownership. Then there are some things like stock or options where you have a certain right to something, but even there you have a piece of paper representing your ownership of that very right. So we think that tokenization will be the way for you to own things in a digital ecosystem. And it doesn't even have to be purely digital, but it will also be this receipt we talked about before. Anything you own, you will be able to transfer the ownership digitally with a state-of-the-art technology or accounting system.
So basically every object in our life, or even some abstract things you could think of, patents or whatever,
yes,
would come with an ID, and then I could transfer it, and the transfer couldn't be overridden or denied because there would be a shared record. I mean, I think the new name I hear now from technologists is not blockchain, it's like distributed ledger technologies, DLTs. And so it means that the record of that is spread into multiple places, and so it can be erased or manipulated.
Exactly.
So that's one of the very concrete example. Can you tell us, I read the news a couple of days ago about you doing a partnership with the anti-doping agency.
This is a project that works now. I don't know, but you remember the Olympic Games a couple of years back where there was this huge scandal because Russia was involved in doping scandals. So the thing, what happened there is doping or documents related to doping, even exemptions from doping, are still being transported, stored, and managed in a very traditional way. In order to have this made state-of-the-art.
So in one place, one computer,
yes,
that if you get access to it, you can change the records.
Or even one urine sample or one piece of paper. If you can produce it, everything is okay. You haven't doped or you were properly tested. If you can't, well, that's the problem. That's one. So unforgeability is one. And the second one is to make this information available without having to provide the physical item. So if you tell me that you have a collection of 20 Rolex at home, I have to take your word for it, unless you display it on the table. If you could show me the digital certificates or tokenized items on your smartphone, I could make sure that you indeed have that. So that's a little bit the thing we have. And it's not different from, you used to have a letter printed on paper. As long as you had the letter, everything was okay. And now you have your information in a computer or even on a cloud service where you have access to this letter or this email at any point in time. And you got used to this convenience to have the information available and also distributable at any time. And I think blockchain will do the same thing for a lot of things.
So who's at risk from losing business because of blockchain?
This I think is more of a general question because it's not limited to blockchain. Anybody who ignores the technology and the change of time with its business will sooner or later perish and have this, as we call it in the blockchain sphere, the first Kodak moment. And as soon as you embrace the technology, you might be wrong, but you might also be dead right about the technology. And I think there are two major technologies that will trigger that in our lifetime. And one will be blockchain, because it takes away this human trust element and replaces it or enhances it by an electronic one. And the second one will be artificial intelligence or deep learning.
Artificial intelligence, what's your vision on that? Where do you see that going?
Well, I think we are in for a revolution there. And the reason why I think that is because it is not like an accounting system. It is not like a miner where you need hardware to be developed. It's software, and the more power you throw at it, the faster it evolves, and it can grow and learn.
So where do you stand on that debate that AI is going to lead us towards a world where there will be no more jobs?
It will.
How does that happen?
Well, the thing is, you remember the start of our talk about the herd. We are sheep in a herd. We like to follow a leader or a system that promises us to win as a group. As soon as the AI becomes that instance that will bring you to a more profitable, a better outcome of your life, you will gladly follow that AI to do it. And I think this is the key point. If you embrace blockchain or not, doesn't really matter. It's an accounting system at the end of the day, and it's quite hard to see what it will benefit you. If you get the possibility to have the experience of a lifetime of written records put in your hand as a strategic option, you will have a competitive advantage over your other peers, and this will help you to promote. So I think it will be a weapons race.
So I think that very few people would answer the question saying like, there will be no more job. People would be like, yeah. I think a lot of people would be scared. So maybe next time you hear that question, like, yeah.
Okay. I will try to
be more politically correct.
I will try that. Yeah.
But maybe you understood something that we didn't. How do you see that concretely happen? I mean, a lot of people. Actually, I'm joking about telling you that because I think it's the 60s, there were predictions that the work week would shrink and machines would work in our stead. Unfortunately, maybe it didn't happen. And there's still a lot of people doing jobs that maybe should be done by machines. So you're enthusiastic about this idea, but how do you see society concretely working? And if we try to tie back to what you do on a daily basis, like what does happen to a place like this? Do you think that people get replaced by machines, and how does it work?
No, it will not be, that big bang where you wake up in the morning and suddenly AIs rule the world. It will be something which, in a transition phase, will not even be visible. You will receive exactly the same tailored, perfect service you were used to by your favorite agent at the company or your favorite software developer or whatever, and you won't even see the difference. It will just be perfect. And with time, you will see that basically receiving that service is more important than knowing the person providing that service. And that's where things will start to change. And at the end of the day, we still live in a very capitalistically motivated system. So the person who can do a better quality for a lesser price will win the race. And this is where the entrepreneurs should really listen up. Because if you don't use this tool, well, then you will have to struggle and it will be more expensive, and this will, have an impact on your cash flow, and then you will be out of the race. It's not something where, if you don't do it, you will be penalized by something. You will just be a part of an evolution of people not using that tool.
And do you see these tools like coming for every type of task, like able to do everything, or do you see them replacing jobs in a certain area? You know, the hidden question here, like where should we as humans turn our attention to if we still want to have occupations in the future?
Okay, let me ask that a counter question for that. What was your favorite class in school? Where were you excelling? Where you said, okay, that's something where I'm
mostly away from school. Normally, if I was, I could say sports, but I cannot even say sports. I think it was a computer class.
Computer class.
Yes.
So would you say that the skills you learned at that time are important for your life today?
No.
And even then,
I'm going to sit back on the sofa and we're going to talk about my childhood. So,
tell me about your mother.
No. No, but no, it's true that I think there is this contradiction that it seems that the skills that we need today are not the ones we are taught. I'm always struck by the fact that when you go to an exam, you have no access to information, while finding the right information seems to be an amazingly important skill. Also, learning to collaborate is extremely important, and you're not allowed to talk and collaborate during exams. So this is where you're going. What you're saying is that these are skills that cannot really be taught, and at the same time cannot be really computerized.
I was saying, yes, the tool becomes, or is already today, so important that if you do not use the digital tool, you know, Google Translate or even better services than Google Translate, if you don't use a smartphone for your calculations or whatever, then you are at a disadvantage. Is it possible?
Resources.
Is it possible to do it? Yes, of course you can write with pen and paper down your exam, but the result you will get will be inferior and slower, and thus more expensive than the result you would get if you had all the tools.
But hasn't that been the march of history for a very long time? That we get tools and we get better. But what you're saying is that now there is some kind of tipping point, and that this technology is different.
No, I think that the problem lies in our perception of time and development. We were used to things moving slowly. I mean, I remember my first computer, for example. Of course, we moved in these decades, but we saw it coming. It was an incremental thing. So I grew up with that image that I would see the truck approach before it hits me and I can get off the street. But the thing is, this doesn't apply to us anymore. It doesn't apply to the time we live in anymore. AI and deep learning and machine learning has made such improvements in the last time that whatever comes, we won't have the time to adapt and get off the road. And there are people driving these trucks today. So that's a little bit the point. You know, you cannot take something from decades back and project it into the future about this.
But I go back to my question, like, so what should we do? Like, first, do you think we should be worried? And second, like, is there something that we should do?
I think this is a redundant question. We can't do anything. We will drive it, and we will drive it because of capitalistic motives. We will follow the AI because we want to be on the winning side, because this is our nature, and that's what will happen. It is not you don't have a choice. It is.
No, but you have a choice to prepare yourself or do something. I don't know. I was expecting, for example, you would say, learn how AI works and try to fall on the side of the people who understand that technology and who know how to make it happen, for example.
Learn to use the tool at your advantage.
Mm. And you don't think that humans will invent new jobs? Like, it always puzzles me that we live in a world where the people who get paid the most money are running after soccer balls, So, which didn't exist 100 years ago. So it sounds like we have the capacity to invent new things that somehow have value. Do you think that's going to stop?
No, I think we will still run after soccer balls. So definitely AI won't help us much there. But that's perhaps the things that will remain. It will be this, again, to close the loop, this empathic time to think, to experience, to exchange will have more value in our life, hopefully. But the thing is just to come to a job and to copy emails into something else, or to represent yourself and your character in a meeting room for an hour and make sure that you say something, because else nobody knows your value. This will definitely not be something we will miss and see as a job. So I think it will transform.
If AI kills boring meetings, then I'm all for AI. Like, go Google, go Facebook, go everyone who works on AI.
Then again, right, we already have that. We already start to have very short meetings and stand-up meetings and stuff like that. This is nothing different than, let's, just cut to the chase and do it directly. So I don't think we will have a big break. But the thing is, to answer your question, we have to evolve with technology, or... Well,
and it's not a choice. It's like something, and I agree with you on that. It's very hard to influence. I mean, if we can influence, but it's hard. One last question. What is the one advice that would have been useful to you before you started your journey as an entrepreneur?
Well, one of the most important parts is listen to your gut feeling and to your decision, instead of listening to bosses or mentors or people that have brought you to the point where you are. Because at the end of the day, they don't know it better. They have perhaps more experience in that certain field, but they will not have to live with it all the time. So just waiting and waiting and waiting until you take the leap and you choose to do something will lead to nothing. Just take the leap and live with it. And if it fails, well, it fails. And if it succeeds, well, then you're happy about it and you continue, is the most important part. Much more important than relying on other people's opinion.
And it all ends well because your old boss still comes to the event once you're an entrepreneur.
That's of course, that's
so, thank you very much, Patrick.
Thank you too.
Thank you.